I remember the exact moment my life shattered. It wasn't during an argument or some dramatic confrontation. It was on an ordinary Tuesday night in April when I was sitting in my home office reviewing quarterly reports for work. My name is Ryan. I'm 38, a financial analyst with a comfortable life in Portland. My wife Claire and I had been married for 12 years, and our daughter Lily had just turned 11. We lived in a 4-bedroom colonial in a good school district, took annual vacations to the coast, and generally appeared to be the picture of suburban success. I worked hard, sometimes too hard, but I believed I was building something that mattered. A legacy, security, a foundation for my family. The night everything changed, I was working late. Claire had gone to bed around 10, and Lily had been asleep for hours. The house had that peaceful quiet that settles in when you're the only one awake. My phone vibrated against my desk at 11:43 p.m. I remember checking the time and wondering who would call so late. The screen showed an unfamiliar number. Normally I might have let it go to voicemail, but something, intuition, fate, whatever you want to call it, made me answer. Is? Ryan? The voice on the other end was male, slurred, clearly intoxicated. Name's Jason. Look, man, I probably shouldn't be calling, but I've had a few drinks and, fuck it, there's something you should know. My stomach tightened. What are you talking about? How did you get my number? Claire gave it to me. Years ago. He laughed, a hollow sound. We've kept in touch. More than in touch, if you know what I mean. I'm the guy who's been fucking your wife on and off for years. His words were crude, deliberate, but that's not why I'm calling. I'm calling because of Lily. Has it ever occurred to you that she doesn't look like you? Not even a little bit. My mouth went dry. You're drunk. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe I'm drunk, but I know what Claire told me. That little girl? She's not yours, man. Never was. Claire was already pregnant when you two got serious. She just never told you. Am I? Look at her, Ryan. Really look at her. Ask yourself why she doesn't have your eyes, your smile, any of your features. Ask yourself why Claire gets weird whenever someone says Lily takes after you. I wanted to hang up, to dismiss this as the ramblings of a drunk, jealous man. But his words had lodged themselves in my mind, like splinters. Because Claire's been playing us both. She told me she was leaving you. Then she told me she couldn't see me anymore. I'm tired of the games. He paused. You seem like a decent guy. You deserve to know. After he hung up, I sat motionless in my chair, the room spinning around me. Memories flashed through my mind. Claire's reluctance to discuss her pregnancy in detail, how she'd changed the subject whenever I mentioned genetic traits Lily might have inherited from me, the way she'd insisted on a closed adoption file when we discussed having more children. I opened my laptop and found myself searching through our family photos. For the first time, Lily really looked at her, with new eyes. Her olive skin, so different from my fair complexion. Her dark, almond-shaped eyes, nothing like my blue ones. Her thick, wavy hair, unlike my straight, light brown hair. I'd always attributed these differences to Claire's side of the family. But now, doubt crept in like poison. Sleep was impossible. I paced the house until dawn, my mind racing between denial, suspicion, and a growing sense of dread. By morning, I knew what I had to do. The next day, I called in sick to work, something I rarely did. I waited until Claire left for her job at the marketing firm, and Lily caught the school bus. Then I went to Lily's bathroom and carefully collected several strands of hair from her brush, placing them in a small plastic bag. My hands trembled as I ordered a paternity test kit online, selecting expedited shipping. When it arrived 2 days later, I followed the instructions meticulously, sending off both my DNA sample and Lily's for testing. The waiting was excruciating. I moved through the days like a ghost, going through the motions at work, forcing smiles at dinner, lying awake beside Claire at night. She noticed my distraction, but attributed it to work stress. I let her believe that. I locked myself in my office, took a deep breath, and clicked the link. The clinical language of the report couldn't soften the blow. The room seemed to collapse around me. I read the line again and again, as if repetition might change the result. But the truth remained, stark and undeniable. Lily, the child I had raised for 11 years, the girl I had taught to ride a bike, whose nightmares I had soothed, whose school projects I had helped with, was not my biological daughter. I don't remember much of the next few hours. I know I vomited in the wastebasket beside my desk. I know I wept until my eyes burned. I know I punched the wall hard enough to crack the drywall and bruise my knuckles. When the initial shock subsided, a cold, clear purpose took its place. I needed to know everything, the full extent of Claire's deception. While Claire was at her book club the following evening, I searched our bedroom. In the back of her closet, behind a row of winter boots, I found a small lockbox I'd never seen before. The key wasn't there, but in my state, I didn't hesitate to break it open with a screwdriver. Inside was a leather-bound journal. The entries dated back to before we were married. With shaking hands, I turned to the months before Lily was born. March 15th. Ryan's away on his business trip. Jason came over tonight. I know I should end things, but I can't seem to stay away from him. It's just physical. It doesn't mean anything. March 18th. Met up with Chris from the gym. Ryan calls every night from Chicago, so sweet and trusting. I feel guilty, but not enough to stop. March 22nd. Drinks with work colleagues. Ended up going home with Michael. Third time this month with a different man. What's wrong with me? March 30th. Jason again. And then David from marketing later the same day. I'm out of control. April 15th. Confirmed. I'm pregnant. Could be any of them. What am I going to do? April 20th. Ryan proposed tonight. He has no idea about the pregnancy or anything else. Said yes. This could be my solution. He's stable, has a good job, and loves me. He'll be a good father, even if the baby isn't his. Muss my vise bage. I read until I couldn't see through my tears. The journal detailed not just her affairs before our marriage, but sporadic infidelities throughout our relationship, including reconnections with Jason every few years. The most recent entry was from just 3 months ago. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had loved, trusted, built a life with, was a stranger to me. And Lily, my beloved daughter, had never been mine at all. I sat on the bedroom floor, surrounded by the evidence of Claire's betrayal, feeling as though my entire life had been a carefully constructed lie. In that moment, something inside me hardened. The shock and grief didn't disappear, but they were joined by something else, a cold, determined anger. I carefully photographed every damning page of the journal, then returned it to the broken lockbox and placed it back in the closet. Claire would discover it had been tampered with eventually, but by then, I would be ready. I barely slept that night, lying beside the woman who had deceived me for over a decade, planning my next move. By morning, I knew exactly what I had to do. The next few days passed in a blur of contained rage and meticulous planning. I functioned on autopilot, going to work, coming home, helping Lily with homework, making small talk with Claire. But inside, I was a storm of emotions. Betrayal, humiliation, grief, and a burning anger that threatened to consume me. I caught myself staring at Lily during dinner, searching her features for any trace of myself, and finding none. The knowledge that she wasn't biologically mine didn't diminish my love for her. She was still the child I had raised, but it cast every memory in a new, painful light. Had Claire been thinking of Jason or one of her other lovers when she watched me bond with Lily? Had she laughed at my pride when people commented on my daughter? The worst part was maintaining the facade. Kissing Claire goodbye in the morning, responding to her texts throughout the day, lying beside her at night, feeling her body against mine, knowing how many others had been there. One night, as we prepared for bed, Claire approached me from behind, wrapping her arms around my waist. "You've been distant lately," she murmured, pressing herself against my back. "Is everything okay?" The thought of her touching me made my skin crawl. I pulled away. "Not tonight. I'm exhausted," she frowned, studying my face. "Ryan, what's going on? You've barely looked at me for days." For a moment, I was tempted to confront her, then and there, to throw the truth in her face and watch her world collapse as mine had. But the time wasn't right. I needed to be strategic, to protect myself legally and financially before the storm broke. She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes, but she didn't push further. "Okay, get some sleep then." That night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and allowed myself to fully feel the rage I'd been containing. The woman beside me had stolen 12 years of my life. She had watched me love and raise another man's child without a flicker of remorse. She had taken my trust, my devotion, my future, and treated them as worthless. The next morning, I called in sick again and waited for Claire and Lily to leave. Then I drove to see a divorce attorney. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Vanessa, listened without judgment as I laid out the situation. I need to protect myself, I explained, financially and legally, and I need to know my rights regarding Lily. Vanessa's expression was sympathetic but professional. This is a complex situation, Ryan. You've been Lily's father in every way that matters for her entire life. In many states, you would still be considered her legal father regardless of biology, especially since you were married to her mother when she was born and have acted as her father. Biologically, no, but legally, you're on the birth certificate. You've established yourself as her father. The courts generally prioritize the child's best interests, which often means maintaining the relationship with the parent who has raised them. And what about the deception? The affairs? Doesn't that count for anything? Vanessa leaned forward. In terms of the divorce, yes, Claire's infidelity can be relevant in some aspects of the proceedings. But regarding your relationship with Lily, the court will focus on what's best for her, not on punishing Claire. First, we gather evidence and prepare for divorce proceedings. I recommend documenting everything, the paternity test, the journal entries, any other evidence of Claire's deception. Don't confront her yet. Don't move out of the house. Don't do anything that could be construed as abandonment. Vanessa's expression softened. That's a more personal decision. You'll need to consider what role you want in her life moving forward, regardless of biology. But I would caution against making any permanent decisions while you're in the midst of this emotional trauma. I left Vanessa's office with a clearer understanding of my legal position, but my emotional turmoil remained. The drive home was a blur of conflicting thoughts and feelings. I loved Lily, that hadn't changed. But how could I look at her without seeing Claire's betrayal? How could I continue to raise her, knowing she was the product of one of Claire's affairs? And what would happen when she eventually learned the truth? The questions haunted me as I pulled into our driveway. I sat in the car for several minutes, staring at the house we'd bought together 8 years ago. The house where I believed we were building a life, a family. The house that now felt like the physical manifestation of Claire's lies. Inside, I went straight to my office and began gathering financial documents. I needed a complete picture of our assets, accounts, investments. I created a separate email account and began forwarding important information there. I made copies of tax returns, bank statements, investment portfolios. As I worked, the anger that had been simmering inside me began to crystallize into something harder, more focused. Claire had systematically deceived me for our entire relationship. She had robbed me of the chance to have biological children of my own. She had made me raise another man's child while lying to my face every day for 11 years. The humiliation was overwhelming. How many people knew? Had Jason bragged to friends about the clueless husband raising his child? Had Claire laughed about it with her lovers? The thought made me physically ill. That evening, when Claire returned from work, I watched her move around the kitchen, chatting about her day as if nothing was wrong. As if she hadn't destroyed our entire life together. The disconnect between her normalcy and my inner turmoil was surreal. Ryan? Her voice broke through my thoughts. Did you hear anything I just said? I blinked, focusing on her face. The face I had loved, trusted, woken up to for 12 years. Sorry, what? She sighed, irritation flashing across her features. I asked if you could pick up Lily from soccer practice tomorrow. I have a client meeting that might run late. The mundane request in the midst of my private apocalypse struck me as absurd. I almost laughed. Claire studied me, her head tilted. Are you sure you're okay? You've been acting strange for days. For a moment, I considered ending the charade, throwing the paternity test results on the table, confronting her with the journal, watching her perfect life crumble. But Vanessa's advice echoed in my mind. Not yet. Not until I was prepared. That night, I lay awake long after Claire had fallen asleep, staring at the ceiling and feeling the weight of my new reality pressing down on me. The woman beside me was a stranger. The life I thought I had was an illusion. The future I had planned no longer existed. In its place was a void, a blank space where certainty had once been. And in that void, something new began to take shape. A determination to reclaim control of my life, to expose Claire's deception, to ensure she faced consequences for what she had done. The next day, I opened a separate bank account and transferred a portion of my personal savings into it. I began researching apartments, preparing for the inevitable moment when our shared home would become a battleground. I documented everything, building a case that would leave Claire no room to manipulate or lie her way out. The anger that had initially threatened to consume me now fueled a methodical, focused response. I would not be Claire's victim. I would not allow her to control the narrative or escape the consequences of her actions. As I picked Lily up from soccer practice that afternoon, watching her jog toward the car with her familiar smile, a wave of grief hit me. Whatever happened next would change her life forever. The truth would hurt her, confuse her, possibly make her hate me. But continuing the lie wasn't an option. Claire's deception had ensured that. "Hey, Dad," Lily called, climbing into the passenger seat. "Coach says I'm getting better at defense." "That's great, sweetheart," I replied, the word Dad echoing painfully in my mind. As we drove home, Lily chatted about school, friends, the upcoming science fair. I responded automatically, my mind elsewhere. Looking at her in the fading afternoon light, I was struck by how much I loved this child who was not biologically mine. The revelation hadn't changed that love, but it had changed everything else. That night, I made a decision. I would confront Claire, but on my terms, when I was fully prepared. I would expose her lies, but in a way that gave me control of the situation. And I would find a way to navigate the complex emotions surrounding Lily, to honor the relationship we had built while acknowledging the painful truth. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with legal complications and emotional landmines. But one thing was clear. The life Claire had constructed on a foundation of lies was about to collapse. And when it did, I would be ready. 3 weeks after discovering Claire's betrayal, I was ready. I had consulted with Vanessa multiple times, documenting everything, preparing financially and legally for what was to come. I had rented a furnished apartment as a backup, though Vanessa advised staying in the house if possible. I had copied and secured all important documents, opened separate accounts, and created a detailed record of Claire's deception. Most importantly, I had worked through enough of my initial shock and rage to think clearly. The raw, uncontrolled anger had evolved into something colder and more focused, a determination to expose Claire's lies and ensure she faced consequences. I chose a Saturday morning for the confrontation. Lily would be home, which wasn't ideal, but I couldn't wait any longer. The strain of maintaining the facade was becoming unbearable, and Claire was growing increasingly suspicious of my behavior. We were at the breakfast table, Claire sipping coffee, Lily texting a friend while picking at her pancakes, me watching them both with the strange detachment that had become my constant companion. "Lily," I said, my voice steadier than I expected, "could you put your phone down for a minute? There's something we need to discuss as a family." Claire looked up sharply, her eyes narrowing. Lily reluctantly set her phone aside, immediately sensing the tension. The word Dad hit me like a physical blow, but I kept my expression neutral. "I've recently discovered some information that affects all of us, and it's time we talked about it." Claire's face paled. "Ryan, whatever this is, maybe we should discuss it privately first." I reached into my pocket and withdrew 2 folded papers, the paternity test results, and a printout of the most damning journal entries. I placed them on the table between us. 3 weeks ago, I received a call from a man named Jason, I began, watching Claire's expression shift from confusion to shock. He was drunk, angry, and decided to tell me something interesting, that Lily isn't my biological daughter. Claire's coffee cup clattered against the table. "Ryan, I don't know what—" "Don't," I cut her off. "Don't lie to me again. I've had enough lies to last a lifetime." Lily was staring between us, her face draining of color. "What are you talking about?" I pushed the paternity test results toward her. "I did a DNA test, Lily. I'm not your biological father." Claire lunged for the paper, but Lily was faster, snatching it up with trembling hands. Her eyes scanned the document, widening with each line. "It's right," I said quietly. "And there's more." I nodded toward the journal printouts. "Your mother's own words, about her affairs before you were born, about knowing you weren't mine, about deliberately deceiving me for 11 years. Claire stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Lily, go to your room, now." "No," I countered. "She deserves to know the truth. Everyone deserves the truth." Lily was reading the journal pages now, her expression shifting from disbelief to horror. "Mom," she whispered, "is this true?" Claire's composure cracked. "It's complicated, Lily. I was young, confused." "You were 27, I interjected. "Old enough to know better. Old enough to make choices and accept consequences." Claire's eyes flashed with anger. You had no right to go through my private journal. And you had no right to lie to me for 12 years. I shot back. No right to make me raise another man's child without my knowledge or consent. No right to continue sleeping with other men throughout our marriage. Lily stood up suddenly, the chair toppling behind her. Stop it! Both of you. Just stop. So you're not my dad? She asked, looking at me with an expression that broke what was left of my heart. Biologically, no, I answered honestly. But I've raised you, loved you, been your father in every way that matters since the day you were born. But you didn't know, she said, her voice small. You thought I was yours. Lily turned to Claire. And you knew? All this time, you knew he wasn't my real father? Don't touch me, Lily jerked away. You've been lying to both of us my whole life. I did what I thought was best, Claire insisted. Ryan has been a wonderful father to you. What good would it have done to tell the truth? That wasn't your decision to make, I said, my voice low and controlled. You robbed me of the chance to make an informed choice about my own life. Claire's expression hardened. And now what? You've blown up our family to punish me? Are you happy? The audacity of her question stunned me. Happy? You think any part of this makes me happy? Finding out my entire marriage has been based on lies? Discovering that the child I love isn't biologically mine? Realizing the woman I trusted has been betraying me for our entire relationship? So what do you want? Claire demanded. Divorce. Is that why you're doing this? To make sure Lily and I are the villains in your divorce story? I want the truth, I said simply. And yes, I want a divorce. I've already spoken to a lawyer. You said you loved me, she interrupted, anger replacing her shock. But the minute you find out I'm not your real daughter, you're ready to walk away? What kind of love is that? That's not what's happening, I tried to explain. I can't stay married to your mother after what she's done. But that doesn't change how I feel about you. Bullshit, Lily spat, the profanity shocking from her 11-year-old mouth. If you loved me, you wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't be trying to destroy our family. Claire moved to stand beside Lily, placing a protective arm around her shoulders. See what you've done? She said to me. Was your revenge worth hurting her? I recognized the manipulation for what it was. Claire using Lily as a shield, positioning herself as the protective mother, and me as the villain. It was masterful, and in that moment I glimpsed the true extent of her capacity for deception. This isn't about revenge, I said, keeping my voice calm. It's about honesty, about consequences for actions, about refusing to live a lie any longer. Lily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. You're pathetic, she said, the words cutting deeper than she could know. If you really loved me, you'd still want to be my dad, no matter what some stupid test says. I do still want to be in your life, Lily, I insisted. That hasn't changed. With that, she turned and ran from the room. Claire gave me a look of pure contempt before following her. I sat alone at the breakfast table, surrounded by the evidence of Claire's betrayal and the wreckage of what I thought was my family. The confrontation hadn't gone as I'd planned. Claire had masterfully turned Lily against me, positioning herself as the victim rather than the perpetrator. But beneath my pain at Lily's reaction was a growing resolve. Claire had manipulated this situation just as she had manipulated our entire relationship. She had lied, cheated, and deceived, and now she was trying to escape consequences by using Lily as an emotional shield. I gathered the papers from the table and went to my office, closing the door behind me. I could hear Claire and Lily talking upstairs, their voices too muffled to make out words. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop, pulling up the file where I'd documented everything. The paternity test, the journal entries, the financial records, the timeline of Claire's deceptions. For the next hour, I refined my plan. Claire had shown her hand. She would use Lily and play the victim to maintain control. I needed to be strategic, to stay focused on the facts rather than getting drawn into emotional manipulation. A knock on my office door interrupted my thoughts. I closed my laptop. Come in. Claire entered alone, her eyes red but her expression composed. She'd had time to craft her approach. We need to talk about what happens next, she said, sitting across from me. For Lily's sake. Yes, we do, I agreed. I've already consulted with a divorce attorney. I'm prepared to be fair financially, but I won't be manipulated or deceived any further. Claire leaned forward. Ryan, I know you're hurt and angry. I made mistakes, serious ones. But breaking up our family isn't the answer. Lily is devastated. Lily is devastated because you lied to her for her entire life, I corrected, Don't put that on me. She needs stability right now, Claire pressed. She needs her family intact while she processes this. I studied the woman across from me, still beautiful, still capable of appearing sincere even in the midst of manipulation. What she needs is truth. What she needs is to understand that actions have consequences. I'm not abandoning Lily, I said firmly. I'm divorcing you. There's a difference. Not to an 11-year-old girl who just found out her father isn't her biological father, and now he's leaving. I felt my anger rising but kept it in check. You don't get to use Lily as a human shield, Claire. You created this situation with your lies. You maintained it with more lies. And now you're trying to manipulate me with guilt to avoid consequences. Claire's expression hardened. What do you want? To punish me? To make me suffer? Will that make you feel better? What I want is honesty, accountability, a divorce that acknowledges the reality of our situation rather than the fiction you've maintained for 12 years. Lily is 11. She's hurt and confused. Of course she wants her family to stay together. But staying in a marriage based on lies and betrayal isn't healthy for any of us, including her. Claire was silent for a moment, studying me. When she spoke again, her voice was different, colder, more calculating. You know I'll get primary custody. No judge will separate a child from her mother, especially when the father has no biological connection. The threat was clear, but I was prepared. Actually, that's not necessarily true. I'm on Lily's birth certificate. I've been her father in every legal and practical sense since she was born. And courts prioritize the child's best interests, not biology. I'm stating facts, I replied calmly. I want to maintain a relationship with Lily. I want what's best for her. But I won't be manipulated by threats or guilt. This isn't over, Claire said, standing. You think you can just blow up our lives and walk away? You have no idea what's coming. As she left, slamming the door behind her, I felt a strange sense of clarity. The woman I had just faced wasn't the Claire I thought I'd married. She was the real Claire, the one who had been hidden beneath layers of deception. Seeing her true face calculating, manipulative, threatening only, strengthened my resolve. I returned to my laptop and continued working, adding notes about our conversation. Claire had shown her hand. She would use Lily as leverage and fight dirty. I needed to be prepared. Hours later, a soft knock interrupted my work. I expected Claire again, but when I opened the door, Lily stood there, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She sat in the chair her mother had occupied earlier, looking small and vulnerable. Is it really true? You're not my real dad? The question hurt, but I answered honestly. Biologically, no, but in every other way, in all the ways that matter, I've been your father since the day you were born. I moved to kneel beside her chair, looking directly into her eyes. That's not true, Lily. Finding out you're not biologically mine doesn't change how I feel about you. I still love you. I still want to be part of your life. I'm not leaving you, I explained gently. I'm divorcing your mother because she lied to me, to both of us, about something incredibly important. But that doesn't mean I'm leaving you. Lily was quiet for a moment, processing this. Mom says you're trying to punish her, and you don't care who gets hurt in the process. Of course, Claire would say that. Your mom is scared and upset right now. She's trying to protect herself. But this isn't about punishment. It's about truth and consequences. I don't understand why it matters so much, Lily said. So what if you're not my biological dad? You've been my dad my whole life. I considered how to explain such a complex situation to an 11-year-old. It matters because your mom lied about it. She knew the truth and chose to hide it from both of us. And it wasn't just that one lie. There were many lies over many years. The stuff in her journal, Lily said, her expression troubled. About other men. I nodded, not wanting to elaborate on Claire's infidelities to her young daughter. Your mom and I made promises to each other when we got married. She broke those promises, repeatedly, and then lied about it. Lily was quiet again, thinking. If you had known I wasn't yours when I was born, would you still have wanted to be my dad? The question caught me off guard with its insight and vulnerability. I don't know, I answered honestly. I might have made different choices if I'd known the truth. But what I do know is that being your dad has been the greatest joy of my life. And finding out you're not biologically mine doesn't change the fact that I love you and want to continue being your father. It's okay, I said, reaching for her hand. This is a lot to process. You're allowed to be angry and confused. I don't know exactly, I admitted. Your mom and I will get divorced. We'll figure out arrangements for you, where you'll live, when you'll spend time with each of us. It will be different, but we'll make it work. The question stung, but I kept my expression neutral. That would be a decision for you and your mom to make when you're older. Right now, I think we all need time to adjust to these changes. Lily nodded, then surprised me by standing and wrapping her arms around my neck. No matter what that test says, you're my dad, she whispered. I held her tightly, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Love for this child who wasn't biologically mine. Grief for the family we were losing. Determination to navigate this difficult path with integrity. When Lily left my office, I sat back at my desk, a new resolve forming within me. Claire would fight dirty. She would use Lily, manipulate the narrative, do whatever it took to maintain control and avoid consequences. I needed to be prepared for that battle, not just legally, but emotionally and strategically. The next morning, I woke early and packed a bag with essentials. Claire and Lily were still asleep as I wrote a note explaining that I was staying at a hotel for a few days to give everyone space. I left my wedding ring on top of the note. As I drove away from the house, I felt a strange mixture of grief and determination. The life I had built was crumbling, but from its ruins I would construct something new, something based on truth rather than deception. I checked into the hotel I'd reserved and called Vanessa to update her on the situation. Then I made another call to a private investigator recommended by Vanessa. If Claire was going to fight dirty, I needed to know exactly what I was up against. Dunno. The turning point had come. I was no longer a passive victim of Claire's deception. I was taking control, preparing to fight for what mattered. My relationship with Lily, my financial security, and most importantly, my dignity and self-respect. Claire had underestimated me. She thought her tears and manipulation would make me back down, that my love for Lily would allow her to escape consequences. She was wrong. I opened my laptop and began typing a detailed account of everything that had happened. From Jason's phone call to the confrontation with Claire to my conversation with Lily. This wasn't just documentation for legal purposes. It was my way of processing, of taking control of the narrative. As I wrote, a plan began to form. Not a plan for revenge, but a strategy for justice. Claire had spent 12 years constructing a life built on lies. It was time for that carefully crafted facade to come crashing down. The weeks following my departure from our home were a blur of legal meetings, therapy sessions, and careful strategic planning. Claire, as expected, had launched a campaign to control the narrative, telling friends and family that I had abandoned her and Lily after some ridiculous paternity confusion, painting herself as the victim of my midlife crisis and paranoia. I maintained my silence publicly, focusing instead on building my case with Vanessa and the private investigator Michael, whom I'd hired. Michael had been thorough, uncovering evidence of Claire's ongoing affair with Jason, financial improprieties, including money she'd been siphoning from our joint accounts into a private account, and communications that directly contradicted the story she was telling others. Most damning was what he discovered about Jason, that Claire had maintained contact with him throughout our marriage, meeting him during business trips and girls' weekends. Jason, it turned out, had known about Lily from the beginning, and had occasionally sent money to Claire through untraceable channels. The most painful discovery came 3 weeks after I left the house. Michael called me to his office to show me what he'd found. I managed to access Claire's email archives, he explained, sliding a folder across his desk. You should see this. Inside was a printout of an email exchange between Claire and Jason from just after Lily's birth. The words burned themselves into my mind. Claire, I know. Ryan doesn't see it. He's so happy to be a father. It never occurs to him to question it. It's better this way. You agreed. Jason, I did. I'm not ready to be a father. But seeing her photo, she's part of me. Claire, she's my daughter. Ryan will give her the stable home and financial security you never could. That was our agreement. I set the printout down, feeling physically ill. They had deliberately conspired to deceive me, to use me as an unwitting provider for their child. The calculated nature of the deception was breathtaking. He showed me texts and emails from the past year, Claire and Jason discussing Lily, making plans to meet, even joking about my obliviousness. In one particularly painful exchange from just 2 months ago, Claire had written, Sometimes I look at Ryan playing with Lily and feel guilty. But then I remember how boring life would be if I'd married Jason instead. At least this way I get financial security and excitement. The evidence was overwhelming, not just of Claire's infidelity, but of her fundamental dishonesty and manipulation. She had never loved me. I had been a convenient solution to her problem, a reliable provider for her and Jason's child. Armed with this evidence and Vanessa's legal guidance, I was ready for the confrontation that had been building. Claire had requested a meeting to discuss Lily's well-being at a neutral location, a private room at a local restaurant. Vanessa advised me to agree but to record the conversation legally and bring copies of the most damning evidence. She's going to try to manipulate you emotionally, Vanessa warned. Stay focused on the facts. Don't let her derail you with accusations or tears. The day of the meeting arrived. I dressed carefully in a suit I knew projected confidence and authority. I brought a folder containing selected evidence enough to make my position clear without revealing everything I knew, and I prepared mentally, rehearsing my points and anticipating Claire's likely tactics. Claire was already seated when I arrived, looking polished and composed in a conservative dress that screamed, "Wronged wife." She'd clearly put thought into her appearance, just as I had. "Claire," I replied, taking the seat across from her, "you wanted to talk about Lily." She nodded, her expression shifting to one of maternal concern. "She's struggling with this situation. Your absence is affecting her deeply." "I speak with her every day," I pointed out. "I see her 3 times a week. I'm not absent from her life." "It's not the same as having her father at home," Claire countered. "She misses our family." "Our family was based on a lie," I said calmly. "A lie you perpetuated for 11 years. Claire sighed dramatically. "Are we back to this again?" "Yes, I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But punishing Lily for my error isn't the answer." "I'm not punishing Lily," I said. "I'm refusing to continue living a lie. There's a difference." "Semantics," Claire dismissed. "The result is the same. A broken home. A confused child." I studied her, seeing clearly now the manipulation in her concerned expression, the calculated way she positioned herself as Lily's protector. "Why did you want this meeting, Claire? Really?" She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "I want to discuss reconciliation, for Lily's sake." "Yes," she nodded earnestly. "We could go to counseling, work through this, build a stronger marriage based on honesty moving forward." "Honesty?" I echoed. "That's an interesting word choice from someone who's been lying to me since the day we met." Her expression hardened slightly before she controlled it. "People make mistakes, Ryan. Forgiveness is part of marriage." "So is trust," I countered. "And respect, both of which you systematically destroyed." Claire's eyes narrowed. "What do you want then? To punish me forever? To take Lily from me? To destroy everything we've built?" It was time. I opened the folder I'd brought and removed the first document, the paternity test results. "What I want is truth," I said, placing the paper between us. "Starting with acknowledging that you deliberately deceived me about Lily's paternity." Claire glanced at the document dismissively. "We've been over this." "Yes, I should have told you. It was wrong not to." I placed the printout of her email exchange with Jason beside it. "And this? Conspiring with Jason to use me as a provider for your child. Joking about my ignorance?" Her face paled as she recognized the emails. "Where did you get that? You hacked my email? That's illegal." "Everything I've obtained was acquired legally," I assured her. "And there's more. Much more." I laid out additional documents, one by one, evidence of her ongoing relationship with Jason, financial records showing money she'd hidden, text messages revealing her true feelings about our marriage. "You've been spying on me," she accused, her voice rising. "Invading my privacy." "I've been uncovering the truth," I corrected. "The truth you've worked so hard to hide." Claire's composure was cracking. "What do you want from me? Money? Is that it? You want to blackmail me with this?" "I don't want anything from you except honesty," I said. "And a divorce that acknowledges the reality of our situation. That our entire marriage was founded on a lie. That you used me for financial security while maintaining a relationship with Lily's biological father. That you never loved me. I was simply a convenient solution to your problem." Claire's expression shifted, the mask of concerned mother falling away to reveal something harder, colder. "Fine, you want honesty? Here it is. Yes, I knew Lily wasn't yours. Yes, I chose you because you were stable and successful. Jason was exciting but unreliable. I wanted both security and passion. Is that so wrong?" The casual cruelty of her admission was stunning. "You didn't just want both," I said quietly. "You took both, at my expense, without my knowledge or consent." "Oh, please," she scoffed. "You got a beautiful wife, a lovely home, a child you adore. Poor Ryan, such a victim." "I got a life built on lies," I corrected. "A wife who never loved me. A child I wasn't allowed to know wasn't biologically mine." Claire leaned back, studying me with new calculation. So what now? You expose me as a cheater, a liar? You think that will get you custody of Lily? She's not even yours. She's been mine in every way that matters for 11 years, I said firmly. And unlike you, I actually love her for herself. Not as a pawn or a prop. Claire's eyes flashed with anger. You think you can take her from me? I'm her mother, her real mother, not some man playing daddy to a child who doesn't share his DNA. Biology isn't everything, I said. Courts look at the child's best interests, and a mother who lies, manipulates, and uses her child as leverage isn't necessarily acting in her child's best interests. Claire laughed, a harsh sound. You really think a judge will give you custody? The non-biological father who walked out on his family? I didn't walk out on Lily, I corrected. I left a marriage based on lies, and I'm not seeking full custody. I'm seeking an arrangement that allows me to remain in Lily's life while acknowledging the reality of our situation. That you lied about Lily's paternity. That you maintained a relationship with her biological father throughout our marriage. That you've been financially dishonest. That you've used Lily as an emotional pawn in this conflict. Claire's expression turned calculating. And if I fight you on this? If I tell Lily that you're trying to take her away from me? That you don't really love her because she's not your real daughter? The threat was explicit now, and it ignited a cold anger within me. Then you'll prove exactly what kind of mother you really are, I said quietly. One willing to emotionally damage her child to win a battle with her soon-to-be ex-husband. Claire stared at me, seemingly reassessing. What do you want? She asked finally. Specifically, a divorce that acknowledges your infidelity and deception. A fair division of assets that accounts for the money you've hidden. A custody arrangement that allows me to maintain my relationship with Lily. And your agreement not to poison Lily against me. I don't publicly expose the full extent of your deception, I said simply. The divorce filing cites irreconcilable differences, rather than adultery and fraud. I don't pursue legal action regarding the money you've hidden. And I continue supporting Lily financially, as I always have. Claire considered this, her mind visibly calculating advantages and disadvantages. I want the house, she said finally, and primary physical custody of Lily. The house will be sold, and the proceeds divided equitably, I countered. And I want joint legal custody with a generous visitation schedule. I'm the only father she's known for 11 years, I said firmly, and I'm on her birth certificate. Legally, I am her father, unless that's challenged in court, which would require involving Jason officially. Probably not, I agreed, but it's an option if you force the issue of my legal relationship with Lily. Claire was silent for a long moment, weighing her options. Finally, she nodded curtly. Fine. Joint legal custody. Standard visitation schedule. The house is sold, but I want half of your retirement accounts. You'll get what the law entitles you to, I said. No more, no less. And we'll need to address the money you've hidden. Claire, I interrupted, tapping the financial documents I'd laid out. We're beyond that now. She fell silent, then nodded again, a gesture of reluctant concession. I'll have my lawyer contact yours. One more thing, I added. Lily needs to know the truth, the full truth, about her paternity. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. And it needs to come from both of us, together, in a way that minimizes the damage to her. She already knows I'm not her biological father, I pointed out. She deserves to know the rest when she's ready, including who her biological father is. That's between him and Lily, eventually, I replied. But she has a right to know her biological origins. Claire studied me, her expression unreadable. You've changed, she said finally. You're harder. As we concluded our meeting, finalizing the broad strokes of our agreement for the lawyers to detail, I felt a strange sense of calm. The confrontation I'd been dreading had come and gone. I had maintained my composure, stated my case clearly, and achieved most of what I wanted. More importantly, I had faced Claire as an equal, not as the deceived husband, not as the victim of her manipulation, but as someone who understood the truth and was no longer susceptible to her tactics. As we stood to leave, Claire paused, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Was any of it real for you? She asked suddenly. Us, I mean. The question caught me off guard with its vulnerability. All of it was real for me, I answered honestly. That was the difference between us. I walked out of the restaurant feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The road ahead would still be difficult. Finalizing the divorce, helping Lily adjust, rebuilding my life. but I had taken back control. I had confronted the lies that had shaped my life for 12 years and emerged with my dignity and self-respect intact. That evening, I called Lily, as I did every day. She sounded happier than she had since the revelation, chatting about school and friends with some of her old animation. We did, I confirmed. We talked about arrangements for the future, the divorce, where you'll live, that kind of thing. "Are you still going to be my dad?" she asked, the question piercing despite its simplicity. "Always," I promised. "Nothing will ever change that, Lily. Not biology, not divorce, nothing." "Good," she said firmly, "because I decided something. I don't care what that stupid test says. You're my dad. Period." Her declaration brought unexpected tears to my eyes. "Thank you, Lily," I managed. "That means everything to me." After we hung up, I sat in my hotel room reflecting on the day's events. The confrontation with Claire had been necessary and cathartic. It had allowed me to state my truth, to stand up for myself, to reclaim the narrative of my own life. But Lily's simple affirmation, "You're my dad," period, that was the true victory. In the midst of lies and betrayal, something genuine had survived, the love between a father and daughter, regardless of biology. I opened my laptop and began typing, continuing the journal I'd started after discovering Claire's deception. Today's entry felt different, less angry, more resolved. I was no longer writing as a victim, but as a survivor, someone who had faced a devastating truth and found a way forward. Today, I confronted Claire with the evidence of her deception. It was difficult, but necessary. For the first time since this began, I felt in control of my own story. More importantly, Lily told me I will always be her dad, regardless of biology. In the midst of all this pain and betrayal, that simple truth feels like solid ground beneath my feet. Whatever comes next, I know who I am. Lily's father, by choice if not by blood. And that identity, freely chosen and fiercely protected, is more real than any DNA test could ever be. The 6 months following my confrontation with Claire were a challenging blend of legal proceedings, emotional adjustments, and gradual healing. The divorce was finalized more quickly than expected. Claire, perhaps recognizing the strength of my evidence, didn't fight the terms we'd agreed upon. The house was sold, assets divided according to law, with adjustments for the money she'd hidden, and our custody arrangement for Lily formalized. I found a comfortable 3-bedroom apartment in a good neighborhood, not far from Lily's school. One bedroom became hers, decorated exactly as she wanted for the days she stayed with me. The 3rd bedroom I converted into a home office, where I could work remotely when Lily was with me. The first few months of the new arrangement were awkward and painful. Lily struggled with the transition, sometimes blaming me for breaking up the family, other times clinging to me as if afraid I might disappear from her life. Claire, true to form, subtly encouraged the former reaction, while presenting herself publicly as supportive of my relationship with Lily. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, we faced another difficult milestone, telling Lily the complete truth about her paternity. Claire had resisted, arguing Lily was too young, but I insisted that partial truths would only lead to more pain later. We met with a child psychologist who specialized in family transitions to discuss the best approach. Dr. Mercer advised honesty, delivered with sensitivity to Lily's age and emotional needs. "Children are remarkably resilient," she explained. "What damages them most isn't difficult truth, but deception, conflict, and feeling caught between parents." With Dr. Mercer's guidance, Claire and I sat down with Lily one Saturday afternoon in the psychologist's office. Claire began hesitantly, explaining that before she and I were married, she had been involved with several men, including someone named Jason. "When I found out I was pregnant with you," Claire told Lily, her voice carefully controlled, "I wasn't sure who your biological father was, but I was in love with Ryan, and he proposed, and I made the decision not to tell him there was a possibility he wasn't your biological father." Lily listened intently, her expression serious beyond her years. "So you lied to Dad," she said simply. Claire and I exchanged glances. This was the part Claire had been most reluctant to address. The hurt in her voice was palpable. Claire reached for her hand. "It's complicated, Lily. Jason isn't ready to be a father. He and I agreed that Ryan would be your dad in every way that matters." "Without asking Dad if that's what he wanted," Lily pointed out, her perception cutting through Claire's careful framing. I shook my head. "Never. I loved you from the moment I saw you, and it never occurred to me to question whether you were biologically mine." Now I love you just as much, I said firmly. Biology doesn't change that. You're my daughter in all the ways that matter. Lily nodded, seeming satisfied with this answer. Then she turned back to Claire. Will I ever meet him? Jason? Claire looked uncomfortable. That's something we can discuss when you're older. I'm old enough now? Lily insisted. He's my biological father. I have a right to know him. Dr. Mercer interjected gently. Lily, meeting your biological father would be a significant step. It might be best to take some time to process what you've learned today before making decisions about that. Lily considered this, then nodded reluctantly. Okay, but I do want to meet him someday. We'll revisit that when you're ready, I promised, earning a sharp look from Claire that I ignored. As the session concluded, Dr. Mercer praised Lily for her maturity and suggested we continue family therapy to navigate this transition. Lily agreed readily, seeming relieved to have a neutral space to process her feelings. In the parking lot afterward, Claire pulled me aside while Lily waited in my car. You had no right to promise her she could meet Jason, she hissed. I didn't promise that, I corrected. I said we'd revisit the discussion when she's ready. She has a right to know her biological origins, Claire. Jason wants nothing to do with her, Claire insisted. Meeting him would only hurt her. That's his choice to make, and hers, when the time comes, I said firmly. I won't lie to her or make decisions for her the way you did for me. No, I said quietly, I'm trying to do what's best for Lily, something you might consider prioritizing yourself. I walked away before she could respond, joining Lily in the car. As we drove to my apartment for her weekend stay, she was unusually quiet. Just thinking, she replied. After a moment, she added, Mom lied to both of us, for years. Yes, I agreed, not wanting to denigrate Claire but unwilling to sugarcoat the truth. Why did you stay with me? Lily asked suddenly. When you found out I wasn't biologically yours, you could have just left. I glanced at her, surprised by the question. Lily, you've been my daughter since the day you were born. Finding out we don't share DNA didn't change that. Love isn't about biology. It's about choice, commitment, relationship. I choose to be your dad, every day. She was quiet again, considering this. I'm glad, she said finally. That you're my dad, I mean. Even if it's not biological. Me too, I said, reaching over to squeeze her hand. More than you can possibly know. That conversation marked a turning point in my relationship with Lily. The full truth, difficult as it was, had cleared the air between us. She stopped blaming me for the divorce and began to understand the complexity of the situation. More importantly, she seemed to grasp that my love for her was a choice, one I made gladly, regardless of biology. As for my own healing process, it evolved in fits and starts. Some days I felt strong, focused on building my new life. Other days the betrayal hit me anew, leaving me angry and bitter. I started seeing a therapist of my own, working through the complex emotions of my situation. Dr. Landry, my therapist, helped me identify and process the layers of grief I was experiencing. Grief for the marriage I thought I had, for the life I had planned, for the biological children I might have had if I'd known the truth earlier. You've experienced a profound betrayal of trust, she explained during one session. It's natural to cycle through anger, sadness, and even bargaining, wondering if you could have done something differently. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed, I admitted. All the times Claire was distant or secretive. How could I have been so blind? You weren't blind, Dr. Landry corrected. You were trusting. There's a difference. Trust is a gift we give in relationships. Claire abused that gift, but that doesn't make you foolish for having given it. Those words resonated deeply. I had been trusting, not blind. The failure in our relationship was Claire's deception, not my trust. 4 months after the divorce, I received an unexpected visitor at my apartment. It was a Saturday morning. Lily was with Claire for the weekend. The knock came as I was finishing breakfast. When I opened the door, a man about my age stood there, looking uncomfortable. It took me a moment to place him from photographs I'd seen during my investigation. He nodded, shifting his weight nervously. Can I come in? I think we should talk. My first instinct was to slam the door in his face. This was the man who had fathered my daughter, who had conspired with Claire to deceive me for over a decade. The curiosity won out? Jason looked around my apartment, noting Lily's school photos on the wall, her jacket hanging by the door. "Nice place," he offered awkwardly. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Claire told me about the conversation with Lily, about her wanting to meet me someday. And I'm not ready for that," he said bluntly. "I've never wanted to be a father. That's why I agreed to Claire's plan in the first place." "Her plan to lie to me and make me raise your child without my knowledge or consent," I clarified. Jason had the grace to look ashamed. "Yeah, I know it was wrong, but at the time, it seemed like the best solution for everyone. Claire got the stable family she wanted, you got the wife and child you wanted, and I got to avoid responsibility." "Everyone got what they wanted except me," I corrected, "because what I wanted was an honest relationship and a child who was biologically mine. I was never given the choice." "I know," he acknowledged, "and I'm sorry for my part in that. I really am. I studied him, this man who shared DNA with the child I loved. Why are you here, Jason? What do you want from me?" He met my gaze directly for the first time. "I want to know what you're going to tell Lily about me. When she asks to meet me." The self-interest behind his visit became clear. "You're worried about what this means for you," I observed. "Not about what's best for Lily." "Can it be both?" he challenged. "Look, I'm not father material. I never have been. Meeting me would only disappoint her." Jason's expression hardened. "I have a life, Ryan. A wife who doesn't know about any of this. A career that keeps me traveling. I can't just become daddy to a preteen because she's curious about her biology." "No one's asking you to become her daddy," I said coldly. "I'm her father. I've been her father every day of her life while you've been—" "What? Sending occasional money to Claire? Meeting up with her behind my back?" Jason had the decency to look uncomfortable. "It wasn't like that. Not exactly." He sighed, sinking onto my couch uninvited. "Claire and we had a connection. It wasn't just physical. But I knew I couldn't give her the life she wanted. When she got pregnant, she saw an opportunity with you. You were successful, stable, in love with her. I agreed to step back because it seemed best for everyone." "Best for everyone, except me," I repeated. "And eventually, best for everyone except Lily, who grew up not knowing her biological origins." Jason nodded reluctantly. "I can see that now. But at the time, we thought we were doing the right thing." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of years of deception hanging between us. I considered the question carefully. "I want what's best for her. If and when she's ready to meet you, I want you to consider her feelings, not just your convenience. She deserves that much. Then you'll be another adult who puts their needs before hers," I said simply, "and she'll have to process that disappointment along with everything else." Jason studied me, seeming to reassess. "You really love her," he said, sounding surprised, "even knowing she's not yours." "She is mine," I corrected firmly. "Not biologically, but in every way that matters. I've been there for every skinned knee, every nightmare, every school concert. Biology doesn't make a father, presence does." Jason nodded slowly. "I respect that," he said finally. "More than you might believe." As he left, he paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I am sorry. For my part in all this." I didn't answer. His apology meant nothing to me. It was Lily who deserved his consideration, not me. After he left, I sat in my living room for a long time, thinking about fatherhood, about choices, about the strange path that had led me here. Jason's visit had stirred up emotions I thought I had processed, but it had also clarified something important. My relationship with Lily was real and valuable, regardless of its origins in deception. "Boring," she sighed dramatically. "Mom made me clean my room and do homework all day." "Dad?" Her voice turned serious. "I've been thinking about Jason, about meeting him someday." "I'm not ready yet," she said thoughtfully. I think I need more time to get used to everything first." Relief washed through me. "That's a very mature decision, Lily. There's no rush. Whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, we'll figure it out together." "Thanks, Dad," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice, "for understanding." As the months passed, I gradually rebuilt my life. I focused on my relationship with Lily, on my career, on developing new friendships and interests. I started hiking on weekends. Lily wasn't with me, joining a group that explored local trails. I reconnected with old friends who'd fallen by the wayside during my marriage. Claire remained Claire, occasionally difficult, sometimes manipulative, always self-interested. But our interactions became more businesslike, focused solely on co-parenting Lily. The raw anger I'd felt toward her gradually dulled to a distant disappointment. 9 months after the divorce, I met someone, a woman named Sarah who taught at Lily's school. Our relationship developed slowly, cautiously. I was transparent about my situation from the beginning, and she was patient with my lingering trust issues,